So, Jen, one of the things I really appreciate about your leadership is we have taken all that we do, because it can be it can appear rather fragmented out there. Well, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, but it really isn't fragmented.
Right.
And you have taken this and put it into 3 pillars, and that helps us understand those. Can you explain what those pillars are?
Yeah, absolutely. We are a multi-sector organization, right? And so we believe that bringing hope in hard places, when we want to see a community that can sustainably, there can be sustainable transformation in this community. If these 3 pillars exist, and those 3 pillars are clean water, because people need access to clean water. If there's not access to clean water, I mean, can you imagine your day without it, right?
That's right.
That's kind of building block number 1. That has to be there. Access to global health and global health care and resources. Again, if you can't get the medications that you need that we might think are very simple, or simple procedures, or, maternal health and infant health, just caring for those things, that has to be in place as well. And then the third is protection. And when we say protection, we're talking about, particularly in the, anti-trafficking, anti-violence, and domestic abuse, all of those things that are happening, that has to be there. Because if we drill a well, but there's still going to be an issue of a girl going to get water from that well, and she's going to be raped along the way, that needs to be dealt with too. So those 3 pillars in those communities, along with partnering with the local church that's there, that right there, if those 3 things are in place, we can see sustainable transformation for generations to come. And that's really where World Hope exists. If you were to go, what's the Venn diagram where those 3 things come together, and you just go, when World Hope can go, this is where the community has the opportunity and dignity and hope, then that's where we know that we can thrive the best. And so we really are leaning into those 3 areas, and know our teams are really skilled at that in all those areas around the world where we work. So that's been a joy, just to be able to kind of give that focus there and know that our teams are some of the best in the world working in these areas.
And that brings me to another question. Is because of those 3 areas, and we've done that, and you've helped solidify the vision of those 3. And then most recently, kind of what's happening in the world today with much of the foreign aid being cut off. This incredible opportunity happened and we've been in Liberia since the beginning, since 1996, 30 years. I mean, we walked through the war in Liberia and walked through the war in Sierra Leone. So we're really established in these countries. We aren't just Johnny-come-lately here at these places. And we have great respect from the government, from from the people, certainly from the churches, various churches, the whole faith community. So tell us about this very interesting opportunity of water for 50,000 people right now.
Yeah. In February, we had really an NGO, another organization that was working in Liberia, come to us along with the government of Liberia, who had begun a multi-million-dollar water project that was a 4-year project. It was going to provide...
Let me interrupt you a minute.
Yeah.
I think, didn't we compete for that grant with them?
We did.
And we lost.
Yeah, we put in a bid for this water project 4 years ago. We lost to this organization.
So this is what makes this a very interesting story. Go ahead.
Right, absolutely. And so then they got a stop work order from the U.S. government because they were a USAID funded organization. But they had already completed 70 to 80% of this project across these 7 communities, providing water for 40,000 people, and then they could not work anymore. And so can you imagine living in these communities, watching these water systems that are powered by solar panels and chlorinators and everything being built, and then suddenly it is stopped? It was like the hope was just ripped away. In fact, when I was in Liberia, we visited a family that had signed over their land deed.
Oh my goodness.
And they had said, please.
And land is ancestral there.
That's right. Yeah, they'd had it. And they said, build this water system on this land because we want our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to have access to clean water. And so they were so proud to have done that. And here this water tower stood on their land, but it was now fenced off and locked up because they were just inches away from having clean water. And so they came to us and they said, would you finish it? Would you take this across the finish line? And so we crunched the numbers and we had meetings and had conversations. But again, we bring hope in hard places.
That's
and
right.
so we said, we will take this on. It's an additional $450,000 to our budget that we did not have at the beginning of the year set. But we just know it's too important, and these people need clean water because it's going to change lives. So once again, we get to be an answer to prayer. We get to be a part of this miracle. And it says volumes about our teams, about our water teams, that we are so respected around the world for the quality of work that we do, that they came to us and they said, if anyone can do this, World Hope can.
Wow.
And it's kind of miraculous that by the grace of God,
yes,
we're not a huge nonprofit organization, but we are present, and I think God honors that.
I do too.
So it's a big undertaking. Yeah. We can't do it alone. We need partners to come alongside with us. But that's what part of this end of year campaign, part of this $8.5 million includes projects like that, that we go together.
Yeah, right.
We can make this kind of impact in the world. And God gets the glory.
You know, I think I'm doing the math right in my head, but $400,000 and 40,000 people, is that $10 a person?
Yeah, about $9 a person.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But you use the word presence, and I just want to say that is also a part of World Hope, has been presence. And I'll just say, I remember this hit me really deeply. I was during the war in Sierra Leone and did a big mess to try to get into the refugee camps. I'd been in a dungeon the night before because they mistook me they thought I was smuggling in rebels into the country of Guinea, and the refugee camps were in Guinea. Finally, I got out of the dungeon that night, and
Which that's a story.
that's another story. And I was with people too. I mean, we were a pickup load of folks, 5 Sierra Leoneans, 5 Americans, but we all ended up in the dungeon. First, I was alone first with AK-47. I can make it really dramatic, so I won't go through all that. But anyway, I'll never forget going in that next day to the refugee camps and the one area that they wanted me to go to. And as I was slogging through this dry season, it was sand up to my, ankles and etc. And I kept hearing in the background this singing, "What a mighty God we serve." And I thought I was hallucinating from the night before. And then I got closer, and here was a little handmade brush arbor kind of thing, sticks and brush on the top. And there were hundreds of people on the inside and on the outside. They're singing, "What a mighty God we serve."
Wow.
I'm thinking, oh my goodness, forgive me, Lord, for here these people have nothing. This refugee camp was one, and I've been in several, one of the worst I'd ever been in. And they're singing, "What a mighty God we serve." But I will never forget, as I was greeting people afterwards, and this woman they said she was 80 years old, and they had carried her. She was a tiny little woman there for safety. But she looked at me and she said, and we took in some stuff and whatever, but she said, "Oh, thank you for coming. We thought we had been forgotten."
Wow.
And that's when I thought, the stuff we brought, rice or whatever, okay, but it was a ministry of presence that was much more important than anything. When you feel as if you've been forgotten, that is the worst.
You talk about that in your book, The Ultimate Blessing, and that has stuck with me through the years, that ministry of presence. It matters so much. And it's interesting because right now, World Hope is in 5 countries. We're in Haiti, we're in the Philippines, Cambodia, Liberia, and Sierra Leone.
Those are all tough countries.
They're all tough. Currently, we're finishing building a blood bank in Haiti.
one of the worst in the country right
now. At the Wesleyan Hospital on Laganaw Island. And again, it's one of those instances of going, we're still there.
Yeah, right.
We're still present.
Right.
Amidst the violence, amidst the uncertainty, and making sure that people know you still matter.
That's right.
And I think about that too with our work in protection, particularly in Cambodia and the Philippines, because these victims are often unknown. They're kind of hidden, right?
That's right.
We started in providing aftercare for victims of commercial sexual exploitation in Cambodia. And that really has morphed through the years to really, equally insidious crimes. In the Philippines, our teams work with victims and survivors of online sexual exploitation, which is just horrific, where children are forced to just do sexual acts that are live streamed across the world, that the perpetrators are paying to have these things live, across webcams, and they're directing the abuse. In the year 2022, 500,000 Filipino children were abused and exploited in this way. But our teams are so present there, and really, again, some of the best in the world of providing aftercare and Christ-centered healing as they help them on their recovery journey, as they've been rescued from these horrific situations. Our teams of social workers and counselors and therapists are walking through that trauma with them and helping to reintegrate them back into families if that's a safe place to do so. As well as, working with the families as well. Right. But tell us a little bit, just how did that protection work begin? How did we get involved with?
Well, my first trip to Cambodia was in 1996, in the summer, right after we started in January. I went there in the summer. And I'd read an article in the New York Times, that year before, they didn't even quite know what to call it, but they began to talk about what was happening in Cambodia regarding human trafficking. And so that was kind of in my mind. And when I was there just to explore what we could do. And the Wesleyan Church was beginning there. So I was going to see how we could come alongside with them. And so the leader said to me that day, he said, we need to take you down to this place. People don't even know what to call this. But we used to have just 3,000 children here. Now we have 15,000. And that day, I started down that road, and there were other people with me. This dusty road with structures of some kind on each side, white plastic chairs, and children. And this is 10:30 in the morning. Children for sale. And I was overwhelmed, and I tried to. I would start snapping pictures, and a pimp came out to grab my camera, and I was able to hold it and keep it. And finally, we just kept walking, and we finally decided, this is so overwhelming. And we stopped on just a corner, and there were four of us, three old ladies and a tired old missionary. And so it's a pretty weak prayer group. We stood on that corner, and the four of us held hands and prayed. Lord, in the face of this evil, because it's evil, in the face of this evil, what do you want us to do? That's how it began. And so I just say, we don't have to have, some head of something or other to pray. God just answers simple old ladies and tired missionaries. And that was then, we didn't see something immediately. That next day there was a family who needed to start a business, and somebody that was with me was a business person. She gave them money to start a business, and we thought, well, he won't sell his children now, because that was what was happening in those days. And so we've saved that, and they had become new believers as well. So we knew they were being discipled and helped with that. And then it just, from then on, it began just to move in ways. It was miraculous, really, ways beyond my ever imagination of what could happen. And then I might add that World Hope, we started in 96, in the year 2000, we moved to Washington, D.C. Now, that was not a strategic move. It was my husband and I trying to figure out what church we should, and there were calls and what we should do and what church he should take. And so we ended up taking this church in, because I said, wherever we move, World Hope will go there, and then it has to stay, because I'm not going to move it around the country. And so we looked at different places. Oh, well, okay, that'd be okay, or this place would be okay. Suddenly this one came from the Washington, D.C. area, Alexandria, Virginia. And I said, well, I guess if we go to D.C., that'd probably be the best place. And so ended up taking that church. And little did I know, when you talk about timing, George Bush then, later that year, became the president. And that's when he established the faith-based initiatives. Well, I was on the ground floor of that. World Hope was on the ground floor of that. Made connection with him. And then they put in trafficking was talked about. And that's when they put in the Trafficking in Persons Division at the State Department. And so I was on the ground floor with that. And so then that's what began to open up many doors and many networks and all of this. It is something only God could have orchestrated. I could not have had that on a strategic plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like strategic plans. They're very important. But we also have to be ready to do something that's not on a strategic plan.
That's right.
And listen.